Here we are at the train station, awaiting our train to the airport to get to Rome.
The time is very early.
The best way to get to Rome if you're outside of Italy is to fly to Fiumicino, also known as Leonardo da Vinci Airport. Since we're staying about 40 minutes outside of Zurich, Switzerland, we had to take a train from our town to Zurich Airport and then fly out. Once you arrive at the Rome airport, you have to choose transportation into the city since you're a bit in the suburbs. Some of these options include a private car, a bus, or a train. We were looking at the trains, but they were honestly pretty expensive, so we opted for the bus instead. However, something to note is that we had to purchase FFP2 masks specifically for this ride since the ones we had didn't qualify for their bus service. This might not be the case anymore, but just be sure to check the local regulations so that you're prepared and you don't have to spend extra money in the moment. The buses and trains only get you as far as Termini station, so from there you still need to find your way to your hotel. If it's farther than walking distance, we recommend the metro since it was only about €1.50. During this trip, we stayed at a bed and breakfast called Martina House that I found on Booking.com. We love using Booking.com because there are so many great options from hotels to bed and breakfast to personal homestays, and many of them have free cancellation and no prepayment, so you can book with total confidence. I'll include a link to the Martina House in the description, but if you want to book something else, feel free to use our link because it still helps us out with no extra cost to you. Since our hotel was so close to the Spanish Steps, that was our first stop. But to be honest, we weren't overly impressed. It's definitely something you could see once and just check it off your list, but there wasn't much more to it except a lot of crowds. The Trevi Fountain, on the other hand, was definitely worth the hype. We also made our way past the Pantheon, although we didn't get a chance to go in, but I would recommend it if you have more time. Since it was so warm out, we found refuge in Basilica di Sant'Andrea, and little did we know there was a wedding taking place, so we may have crashed it. Talk about a fairy tale wedding venue. For dinner, we ate at a spot called Osteria da Fortunata. The carbonara was some of the best we've ever had.
Oh wait, no, we want to go. Pushed the wrong button. Usually at home, one is like the ground floor, but here one is usually one step up. So you have to go to, I guess this one is T, which would be like the ground floor. I messed up.
Oopsie daisy.
Today we're taking a tour of the Colosseum and the Forum and Palatine Hill. So when you buy a ticket to any one of those, you get into the other ones too. I think usually you buy the ticket for Colosseum and then you also get into the Forum and the Palatine Hill. But
How much was that ticket?
I think it was like 50 each.
Okay,
so it was
that's not
about
bad.
100, or maybe it was like a little over that for us because you can get in for much cheaper if you just buy a ticket to go in yourselves. But we wanted to do a tour because we weren't doing any other tours here, and we just wanted to we wanted to really learn from our experiences at the Colosseum and the Forum, because otherwise I feel like we'd just be walking around looking and being like, wow, that's cool, but we don't know what it is. So we wanted to be able to learn about the history so we have more to take back from it after that.
Cool. Michelle and I have been talking about what it must have been like in ancient times to go to the Colosseum. I'm picturing like some version of going to SoFi Stadium where it's like there's probably like the boxes.
Just with people getting killed instead of football players.
Exactly.
Right?
Like what are you doing on Saturday? Oh, you know, going to the Colosseum to like watch some actual people die. Like, that's pretty insane to think about.
Of all the tours we could have done, I'm so glad this was the one we chose because our tour guide, Elena, was fantastic. She was so funny and interactive and had so much to share about Rome. And it was so nice having someone show us the way through the Forum since it's kind of a maze. She had a whole binder full of pictures of how the Forum used to look back in the day. So that helped us visualize what we were looking at. I think some people overlook Palatine Hill since it's not as well known as the Forum and the Colosseum, but it's definitely a must-see. It has the best view over the city and it has some amazing gardens that you can tell used to be incredible. The Colosseum was the last stop on our tour, and it definitely lived up to expectations.
The Colosseum is very big, and it feels very big. It's very impressive. First impressions?
It has a lot of holes.
Holes are the wrinkle of buildings.
But they look intentional.
They are intentional wrinkles.
We actually learned from our tour guide that the holes in the walls were caused by metal rods that were used to hold marble in place along the whole exterior. But then unfortunately, people poached all the marble off and used it for themselves. One of the reasons I chose this tour specifically was because it allowed us access onto the arena floor. It was pretty crazy to imagine the sorts of events that took place in this arena back in the day. After our 3-hour tour and a pretty bad sunburn, we got lunch at a place called I Tre Scalini. This place had such a fun atmosphere and really good food and drinks. Just a tip though, it can get pretty busy, but you can order a drink while you wait for your table. Within the Old Town, you'll find this building that wasn't finished until 1935, so it's pretty new for Rome. But the locals refer to it as the wedding cake.
I like the white. I don't know why people here don't like the white. I guess they like their colorful buildings and they don't really like the fact that this newer one is just white, but I think it's beautiful.
Another stop we made was at the Mammertine prison, which includes the cell where the apostles Paul and Peter were supposedly held in Rome.
We just went in there and we saw the prison where Paul and Peter were both kept, which was pretty crazy to be in.
In the same space.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking for myself, I don't know how you felt, but I felt very like moved, I guess. It felt like heavy to be there. It was very cool. I don't know, just crazy to think about them living here and walking here and being here, being killed here. So we just walked over to Trastevere, I think is what it's called, or Trastevere, I'm not really sure. But we went over there because I've heard so many good things, and when I've researched places to stay or places to eat, it always says that area. But honestly, we were kind of underwhelmed. I don't know if we were just in the wrong spot, but we went down the main street and some of the neighboring streets, and honestly, it was just filled with a lot of graffiti and trash on the ground and the smell of cigarettes. So it wasn't very charming.
But the restaurants definitely looked good.
The restaurants look nice, but if you're sitting outside and you're staring at a wall of graffiti, that doesn't really sound worth it to me, personally. But
that's true.
Anyway, that's my 2 cents. We've honestly found that there's less graffiti and trash in the main area, which is kind of interesting. I would think it would be the opposite. So, just something to know.
Our last venture for the day was the gallery at Barberini Palace. We actually didn't pay the entrance fee to get into the museum or the gardens, since we had already done so much that day. But we would recommend it if you have extra time. Even just the building and its architecture was really neat to see.
Buongiorno. Today is day 3 and we are on our way to the Trevi fountain. We've already seen it probably 5 times because it's on the way to everything we want to go from our hotel. But we haven't seen it this early in the morning when hopefully there aren't as many tourists there. So we're hoping to maybe snap a few pictures with fewer people around. We'll see. It's 8, I think. So it might already be crowded, but It was the earliest that we were able to get up and out, and not my fault. So, we'll see.
So it turns out that the city cleans out the coins from the Trevi fountain every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning at 8 to 9 a.m., which was exactly when we showed up. We didn't really mind since it was less crowded and it was nice to see the fountain in the morning light, but we wouldn't recommend going during these times if you want a lot of photos because the fountains are turned off and you can't get very close.
Welcome to Vatican City behind me. We're gonna try to get into the Sistine Chapel and St. Peter's Basilica and maybe the Vatican museums, but unfortunately I did not book a ticket in advance because I wasn't sure exactly when we were gonna come. So we're just gonna have to stand in line maybe. We're in line for the Vatican museums and the Sistine Chapel, and we are in line in a long line for tickets because we didn't buy them in advance because I didn't know exactly when we would come, and they were sold out as of yesterday when we decided. So we had the option of buying a reserve ticket later today, but I convinced Matt to wait in this long line with me instead because I wanted to get in faster. You're not mad at me?
I'm a little peeved, but not mad. There's a big difference.
Well, we've got a while left, so hopefully we can think of some things to talk about.
It turns out the line didn't take quite as long as the ticket salesman said it would, but we would still recommend buying tickets in advance if you can. Honestly, we didn't really know what to expect from the Vatican museums. We kind of just wanted to see the Sistine Chapel and St. Peter's Basilica, but there was so much interesting artwork and history within the museums that I'm so glad we didn't miss. Also, make sure you don't miss the underground exhibit that houses all of the different iterations of cars used to drive the Pope. Once we finished in the museums, we headed to St. Peter's Basilica. You can actually enter the Basilica for free. The Basilica was so much larger than we expected, and it was probably the most ornate place that we'd ever been in. Matt's brother Ian even thinks it's the most sublime human creation ever made.
I'm popping my collar like every good European should.
Tell them why.
Yes, the little collar that you have on your shoulders.
You have to tell them why.
Oh, because of the sun. It is very hot.
Maybe that's why they all do
I
it.
think that's why they do it.
To protect their necks.
I always thought it just looked dumb, but apparently it's actually for a reason. We are walking back from the St. Peter's Basilica, which is pretty breathtaking.
And it's massive.
It's massive. It's like the biggest thing ever. Now we're walking back to the hotel for a little bit of work, and then we're gonna go out on the town tonight, get some yummy food, get some alcoholic drinks.
Hopefully see Rome at night. The
Pretty-
sun sets so late here in the summer, so it's like I want to see what the city looks like at night, but we'd have to stay out till like 9:30.
Yeah, it won't be.
Maybe even 10.
For our last dinner in Rome, we ate at a place named Il Barocchio. We became besties with our waiter Kevin, and he even brought us complimentary limoncello shots. Before heading to our next stop, we decided to wander a bit in the gardens at Villa Borghese. You could easily spend several days in Rome and miss this place, but we recommend it especially if you're looking for a nice spot to wind down. It actually reminded us a bit of Central Park. Overall, Rome was such a fun experience. We felt like it really lived up to the hype, even though that seems pretty hard to do because it's so famous. It feels like a place you have to do at least once in your life, if not multiple times. Make sure you check back next week for our final trip in Italy as we journey down to the Amalfi Coast.